Hallelujah, hallelujah. All praises to our Heavenly Father. I thank the Most High for everything, and I thank you for your interest in this video. I'm just doing this. This is a quick notification. I'm just doing this to remind you of the upcoming Sabbath. The next Sabbath day will be on Thursday, August 29th. The 29th of August, Thursday, will be the next Sabbath day. That will be on the last Sabbath of the 5th month. The last Sabbath, the last biblical Sabbath of the 5th month will be on Thursday, August 29th. The reason for this is because the 5th biblical month began on the 1st of August. The 1st of August was the beginning of the 5th biblical month. We are currently right now in the biblical calendar, in the calendar of our Creator. We're currently in the 5th biblical month right now. So, and next Thursday, August 29th, will be the last Sabbath of the 5th biblical month. And I'm just doing this to remind you so that you will be able to be prepared and get ready for Sabbath. I'm not talking about man-made calendar here. I'm not talking about Saturday Sabbath, because Sabbath is not on Saturday. Saturday is not the Sabbath. Sunday is not the Sabbath. Saturday is not the Sabbath, and Sunday is not the Sabbath. The Sabbath is regulated by the moon. The moon regulates the Sabbath. So if you're watching this for the first time and you have no idea what I'm talking about the true biblical calendar that our Creator created when He created this world. Our God gave us a calendar. Our Creator gave us a calendar. That's the calendar that I'm talking about. You know what? Just take a look at this. I'm going to show you this. If you're watching this for the first time, I just want you to hear from a Christian pastor explain this, because they are admitting. I'm going to hear a Christian, because even Christian knows this. Saturday is not the Sabbath. Sunday is not the Sabbath. Saturday is never the Sabbath, and Saturday is not the Sabbath. Sunday is also not the Sabbath. The Sabbath is regulated by the moon. The Sabbath is regulated by the moon. Take a look at this, and we'll come back and continue.
We began this sermon by quoting Genesis 1:14, and God said, "Let there be lights in the heaven to divide the day and the night, and let them be for signs or signals." When I was in Washington talking to Pastor Mark Blitz, he asked me if I'd ever considered the study of the lunar eclipse with regard to a prophetic signal, and I said no. He said, "You should." So I came home, and thinking about what the pastor had said, I sat down at my computer and began to work. I knew that our Bible, this one, was written on the lunar calendar. Our calendar, the Western civilization calendar, is the Gregorian calendar from Pope Gregory of Rome. That means it's pagan in origin. It's not God's calendar. Our calendar and the calendar of this book do not match. Sun God is for Sunday. Moon God is for Monday. That's a sermon for another time. Believe me, much of what Christianity salutes is pagan to its roots. The thought registered in my brain that maybe the heavens are God's billboard and He's sending us a signal, but we're not getting it. So I began to look up.
Well, as you can see, or as you saw in that video, that was a Christian pastor, Pastor John Hagee, a Christian pastor out of Texas, admitting to you that God's calendar is the moon. The reason why I show this video is because you have so that you can see. I want you to see that even Christians admit that God's calendar is the moon. This is a big deal, because they are the one that claim that Sunday is the worship day, Saturday is the worship day, Sunday is the worship day. They make that claim knowing fully well. They know fully well that our Creator created the moon for the moon to be our calendar. That's where the word the month came from. That word month came from the moon. The word month came from the moon. So the moon is the calendar that our Creator gave us for us to use when He created this world. Genesis chapter 1 verse 14 to 16. Genesis 1:14 to 16. Psalm 104 verse 19. Psalm 104 verse 19 in the Apocrypha. Sirach, if you have the Apocrypha, if you don't have it, you can Google it. Google the book of Sirach. Sirach chapter 43 verse 6 to 8, and also the book of Enoch. You can also Google the book of Enoch. Enoch 77:14. If you don't find it in 77:14, look for it in chapter 78. In chapter 78, you will see it there. In that chapter 77 or chapter 78 in the book of Enoch, you will see that our Heavenly Father created the moon for the moon to be our calendar. That's why the phases of the moon changes every night. This is not a coincidence. The phases of the moon changes every night. It's not a coincidence. So let me explain how this works. If you're watching this for the first time and you are wondering what is he talking about, so this is how it works. So the new moon begins the month. The new moon day begins the month. New moon day, when the first crescent of the moon comes out, that is the beginning of the biblical month. New moon day begins the month. You observe the new moon day. We are supposed to worship on the new moon day. That day that the first crescent of the moon comes out, that is the new moon day. And we are supposed to, our God, our Creator, our Maker, our Heavenly Father commanded us to worship on the new moon day. We are supposed to worship on the new moon day. People don't worship on the new moon day anymore because they're using this man-made calendar. They're using this pagan calendar, this man-made Gregorian, satanic, European calendar that was made by Pope Gregory. This man right here made this calendar. So we're not supposed to use this calendar to keep the Sabbath. We're supposed to keep the Sabbath using the moon. The moon is the calendar of our Creator. So the new moon begins the month. The biblical month begins by the new moon. The new moon begins the month, and our Heavenly Father told us to worship on the new moon. You can see this in Ezekiel chapter 46 verse 1 to 3. Ezekiel 46 verse 1 to 3 was supposed to worship on the new moon. So you worship on the new moon, and then the next day you go to work. The next day you go to work. You work for 6 days, and then you rest on the 7th day. This is very simple, very beautiful, very nice, very easy to understand. New moon begins the month. You worship on the new moon day. The next day you go to work. You work for 6 days. As you can see on this chart, you work for 6 days. You rest on the 7th day. On the 7th day, the moon will be 50% full. 50% full moon. You worship and you keep your Sabbath on that day. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. Like I always say, you could be in Africa, you could be in Asia, you could be in the Americas, you could be in anywhere, in the jungle, in an island. We only have one moon and one sun. Very, very simple. Very simple. You observe your Sabbath on that day. The next day, you go to work. On the Sabbath day, the moon will look 50% full. On that first Sabbath of the month, the moon will look 50% full. That's what the moon looks like on the 7th day. You observe your Sabbath. The next day you go to work. You work for 6 days. You work for 6 days. All these days, you work for all these working days. You rest on the 7th day. On the second Sabbath of the month, the moon will look 100% full. The moon is going to look 100% full. A full moon. Wherever you are, it doesn't matter. You and I will see the same moon on the Sabbath day. You observe your Sabbath on that day. You worship, you rest, no walking, no buying, no selling. You observe your Sabbath. The next day, you go back to work. You work for 6 days, and then you rest on the 7th day. And on the 7th day, on the second Sabbath of the month, the moon will be a full moon, gigantic moon, like as I said. You rest on that day, you go to work, you work for 6 days again, and you rest on the 7th day. On the third Sabbath of the month, the moon will go back to 50% full again, as you can see on the chart. This is what the moon does every month. This is exactly what the moon does. And then you worship, you keep your Sabbath on the on the third Sabbath of the month. The next day you go to work. You work for 6 days, and then you rest on the 7th day. That will be the last Sabbath of the month. The last Sabbath of the month, the moon is going to look tiny. The moon is going to look very tiny on the last Sabbath of the month. So you observe your Sabbath on the last Sabbath of the month. The next day is automatically a new moon day. The next day after the last Sabbath of the month was automatically a new moon day. So the next new moon day, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this. The next new moon day will be on the 30th and the 31st of August. 30th and the 31st of August 2019 will be the next new moon day. Please, I'm going to beg you. Please, I plead with you. You have to worship on the new moon. You have to worship on the 30th of August and the 31st of August 2019. Those are new moon days. Our Heavenly Father told us to worship on that day, as you can see in Ezekiel 46 verse 1 to 3. Ezekiel chapter 46 verse 1 to 3 was supposed to worship on the new moon. You are supposed to worship on the new moon. And you look at Nehemiah chapter 8. Nehemiah chapter 8 verse 1 to 12. Nehemiah chapter 8 verse 1 to 12. You will see that our ancestors was worshiping on the new moon day. Our ancestors worshipped on the new moon day. You're supposed to worship on the new moon day, as you can see in Nehemiah chapter 8. And then also in Colossians chapter 2. Colossians chapter 2 verse 1 to 3. Colossians chapter 2 verse 1 to 3. You see that Paul was encouraging those that was following Christ. Paul encouraged the early followers of Christ to not let anybody condemn them or judge them for worshiping on the new moon day and worshiping on the Sabbath days and on the feast days. You're supposed to worship on the new moon day, and the next new moon, the beginning of the sixth biblical month, the sixth biblical month will begin. The sixth biblical month will begin on the 30th and 31st of August 2019. As you can see on the screen, that will begin the fifth biblical month, and we're supposed to worship on that day. I plead with you, I encourage you to worship on the new moon day. You're supposed to worship on the new moon day on the 30th and 31st of August. So that's what's coming up right now. This is very simple. This is easy to understand. The Most High, our Heavenly Father, made this so simple for us to understand. The problem is that we have abandoned His calendar. We've abandoned His calendar. He made it very easy to understand. This is the reason why in the morning, the Most High created the sun and the moon to be His calendar. Our Creator made the moon and the sun. He created the sun and the moon to be our calendar. That's why the phases of the moon changes every night. This is also the reason why the sun comes up in the morning. In the morning, the sun will come up. In the morning, at dawn in the morning, the sun will come up and the sun will travel. When the sun is all the way in the sky, you know that this is midday. This is midday, in the middle of the day. When the sun is all the way in the west, you know that this is evening. This is evening. The sun regulates the day. The sun regulates the day, and the moon regulates the month. The sun regulates the day, and the moon regulates the month. This is very simple, very easy to understand. And I would also like to mention that the day begins from dawn to dawn. The day does not begin from evening to evening. The day does not begin from evening to evening. The day begins from dawn to dawn, from morning to the next morning. From morning to the next morning. The day begins from dawn to dawn. Like this is dawn, as you can see on the screen. Very early in the morning, before the sun comes up. That period of time that it takes the sun to come up, before the sun comes up, when you begin to see daylight, as you can see on the screen, when you begin to see daylight in the morning, that is dawn. That is when the day begins. The day begins from dawn to dawn, not evening to evening. The day begins from dawn to dawn. Read Matthew 28 verse 1. I'm going to give you some scriptures. Matthew 28 verse 1. Matthew chapter 28 verse 1, and also Joshua chapter 6 verse 15. Joshua chapter 6 verse 15. Joshua 6:15, and also Exodus chapter 19. Exodus chapter 19. Exodus 19 from verse 10. The day begins from dawn to dawn. So for all the days, for Thursday, 29th of August, that will be a Sabbath day. You have to keep your Sabbath from morning to the next morning. Morning to the next morning. I encourage you to look under this video. Look under this video right now, and you will see links. I have links that will give you information to other videos. You will see other informations in other videos that I have. Please look under this video in the description, or download the Coming Kingdom app. Download the Coming Kingdom app on your phone so that you'll be able to learn more about the Sabbath. You can also contact me if you have any question. If you have any question about any of this, feel free to contact me. You have to go back and begin to use the calendar of our Heavenly Father. We have to go back to use the calendar of our God. We need to abandon this pagan calendar. This is a pagan calendar. This is a man-made calendar. This was not the calendar that our ancestors was using. Our ancestors did not use this calendar. There was no iPhone during the time of our ancestors. there was no paper, there was no paper, there was no printing press like we have now. They were using the moon as their calendar. Today we have lost our heritage. The Hebrews no longer knows who they are. The Hebrews have forgotten who they are, just like our Heavenly Father says in the book of Jubilees. I encourage you to read the book of Jubilees chapter 1. If you read the book of Jubilees chapter 1, you will see our ancestors, our Creator, our Heavenly Father. In Jubilees chapter 1, I highly plead with you. I beg you to read the book of Jubilees. Read the book of Jubilees chapter 1. Google it. If you don't have the book of Jubilee, use your phone. Go to Google and type in Jubilees chapter 1. Read it. You will see your God. You are going to see your God. You're going to see your Creator, talking about how his own people, our Creator, our Heavenly Father, in the book of Jubilees chapter 1, was talking about how his own people, the Hebrew Israelites, will forget his feast days, forget his Sabbath days, and basically forget his calendar and follow after the Gentiles. That the Hebrews will forget these things and follow after the Gentiles. That is exactly what has happened today. So today, the true Hebrews, the real Hebrews, no longer knows who they are. I encourage you to read the book of Jeremiah 17 verse 4. Jeremiah 17 verse 4 said that the Hebrews will forget their heritage. The Hebrews no longer knows who they are. The true Hebrews, today they will tell you that they are black, they are African American. They will say that they are African American. They will say that they are from Nigeria. They will say they're from Trinidad. They will say they're from Jamaica. They're from this. The true Hebrews have forgotten who they are. I encourage you, if you want to see what I'm talking about right now, read the book of Jubilees. Google the book of Jubilees and read chapter 1 and also Jeremiah 17 verse 4. The true Hebrews no longer knows who they are. Those people who are claiming to be Jews, as you can see on the screen, these people are liars. These are not the true Jews. These are not the true Jews. These people that claim to be Jews, they are not. Read the book of Revelation. These are imposters. They are Jewish. The true Hebrews are poor. The true Hebrews no longer knows who they are. And today, the true Hebrews are now following the Gentiles. The true Hebrews are following the Gentiles. The Europeans are the Gentiles. The Europeans, the Germans, the French, the white Americans, the Gentiles are the ones that gave you this calendar. The true Hebrews are following and worshiping the gods of the Gentiles. They are worshiping using the calendar of the Gentiles. The Europeans are the Gentiles. We have to abandon this pagan calendar, this European calendar, this Gentile calendar, and go back to the calendar of our ancestors, which is the sun and the moon, the natural calendar that our Creator gave us. And we're going to be using it in the kingdom. We are going to be using the moon in the kingdom, as you can see in Isaiah chapter 66. Isaiah 66, 22 and 23. Isaiah 66, 22 and 23. Our Heavenly Father talked about how we are going to be worshiping Him on the Sabbath days and on the new moon days. In the kingdom, in heaven, in the kingdom. Isaiah 66. Check it out. Check it out. So we have to abandon this man-made calendar and go back and use the calendar of our Heavenly Father. The Hebrews need to wake up and go back to, you need to stop keeping Sabbath on Saturday. Saturday is not the Sabbath. Sunday is not the Sabbath. Saturday is not the Sabbath. Sunday is not the Sabbath. So I thank our Heavenly Father for everything. I'm going to end it right here. And I want to remind you, remember that the 30th and 31st of August is a new moon day. You have to worship on the new moon day. We have to worship on the new moon day. It's a worship day, and that will begin the 6th biblical month. Right now, we are currently in the 5th biblical month. The 5th biblical month. The 6th biblical month. The number 6 biblical month will begin on 30th and 31st of August 2019. That's when that will be a new moon day, the beginning of the month. You're supposed to worship on the new moon day. And also the 29th of August, it will be a Sabbath day, the last Sabbath of the month. If you want to learn how to keep the Sabbath, I highly recommend and I encourage you to read the book of Jubilees chapter 50. Google Jubilees chapter 50. Google the book of Jubilees chapter 50 so you can learn how to observe the Sabbath. We're not supposed to buy on the Sabbath. We're not supposed to sell on the Sabbath. We're not supposed to walk on the Sabbath. We're not supposed to cook on the Sabbath. We're not supposed to have sex on the Sabbath. We're supposed to rest on the Sabbath. We're supposed to worship on the Sabbath. And if you would like to join us for worship, we do meet on the Sabbath day. We meet on the Sabbath day. We do it online. We use the internet. We meet online. If you would like to join us for worship, contact me, send me a message, and then we'll go from there. You can join us. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can join us as long as you have internet on your phone. You can use your phone to join us for worship. You're supposed to worship on the Sabbath day, but whether you worship with us or not, it doesn't matter. Just rest on the Sabbath day. I just want you to rest on that day. Stay in your house. Don't go out. Don't buy. Don't sell. Don't cook. Rest on that day. Read the book of Jubilees chapter 50. If you have any question, feel free to contact me. If you have any question about any of this, you need to abandon this pagan man-made calendar and go back and use the calendar of your God. I thank our Heavenly Father for everything, and I thank you for watching. If you have any question, feel free to contact me, and I will try my best to answer your question as much as I can. I would like to encourage you to share this video. Share this video on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. Share it so that our other brothers and sisters who are keeping Sabbath on Saturday will be able to have access to this information, and they make up their mind if they would like to, keep the Sabbath using the moon or not. I thank our Heavenly Father for everything, and I thank you for watching. If you have any question, feel free to contact me. All glory to our Heavenly Father.